My name is Katie Knight, and for basketball, I played 4 years of varsity at Sandpoint High School. It's up in northern Idaho, and then I was actually able to go on and play at a junior college in Wyoming for a couple of years. It's Northwest College. As a basketball coach, I started as an assistant for Hagerman for varsity. Then I did JV, and then I do varsity, and I just work with girls for basketball. For my former players, I would take the film and upload any videos to Facebook, YouTube, any online networking sites. And if they wanted a DVD, then I would copy that and send it to coaches. I would call, email, contact any coaches any possible way I could for my former and current players. If they wanted to go to a school, no matter if it was in their league or out of their league, I would contact that coach for them. From a small school, definitely the most effective way is getting voice contact with coaches on the phone. They most likely have not heard of my players. We don't have a lot of club players, so they're not out there getting recognized. So if I don't get on the phone and get into their head, then they won't hear about my players. We're in such a small conference in a small state, not known for basketball players. So I definitely see success with getting on the phone with coaches. And then they always want to see my players because obviously they don't send out scouts to my games. So I am more than willing to get film on YouTube. I set up a channel for our athletes, for Hagerman athletes, and then I send them links. I send them every possible way to get my players recruited. But I definitely find success on the phone because then if they're not interested in my player, they just pass me on down the line and I'll call any coach. I don't say no. So if I can get them on the phone, talk to them, and get them film, I have success getting their name out there, definitely. I probably won't spend a lot of time with online recruiting sites. It just, especially if you have to pay for it, they won't, it's not really worth your time. And free sites, I don't know, we're a small school, so if my players aren't putting up huge stats or really recognizable things, they're not going to get it. It definitely just was not worth the time or the effort. We're just too small to get recognized that way. So I won't spend time with online recruiting sites. I just like person-to-person contact the most. So. My biggest advice for high school athletes is to start the process earlier in life. You think by the time you're a senior is when you're going to get recruited and you're already out of the game for most universities. And players don't realize that, especially at a small school. You need to start as soon as you get into high school, and you need to figure out where you want to go. And shoot high because if you fall, you're going to land in a better place for you anyway. So start earlier, make giant lists of colleges that you want to go to, and get film from your coach right away. Send it to them. If they're not interested in you, ask them what you can improve on. And have your coach right there with you. Use your coach. And a lot of coaches need to learn how to contact universities too. We're scared. We're not comfortable with it too, but you need to start the process as soon as you can. So by the time you're a junior, you're already figuring things out and you've narrowed it down and you can commit, especially at university level. Junior colleges, you can play that game later into your senior year. But if you want to go to a big school, your sophomore and junior year, you need to be done getting recruited. That's scary because you might still develop, you might grow, but use your coach. Have them email schools, have them contact schools, make databases on Excel of all the schools, yes or no, when you contact, and follow up. It's not just a one and done, here's my name. The players that are successful are the ones that are in their head, the one that college coaches can remember. So contact them once a week, send them your schedule, send them your stats. Have your coach on the ball and keep them. And if they're not doing it, you have to stay with your coach and be positive, be consistent, but stay on that university's radar. They might tell you no, but if it's where you really want to go, you'll figure out how to improve with your coach and to get to where you want to go, and do it early. Junior year is cutting it really close, and I don't think a lot of athletes understand that, especially from Idaho. It seems like they think that senior year is when you get recruited, and I learned when I was in high school, there were already 8th graders being recruited for my class. And that was a hard pill to swallow because I thought I was going to do really well. So start early and be consistent with your coach. Always contacting them. Get videos on YouTube. Get videos anywhere you can. And keep sending them. One game is not enough. Ask them if they want a highlight film or a full game, because some coaches don't want to just see your highlights. They want to see how you handle a mistake, how you bounce back, how you handle adversity. So just understand what coaches want and how you can fit into their game, how you can fit into their program, and understand what type of player you are, what your strengths are. And I had one of my college coaches say, I don't want to know that your strength is scoring, because everybody can score, or your strength doesn't need to be defense. What other strengths do you have? Have many talents and be able to play many positions. That's what coaches really want. So that would be my advice. Just be a very versatile player and use your coach the best you can. And coaches need to understand the recruiting game too. It's a very long, strenuous process. You're going to get told no. But you have to be able to take some knocks and get back up, and you'll probably end up a place you never thought would want you. And I told my athletes, there's a place for everybody. It's just depending on where you want to go and what you're willing to work for. So that's what your coaches need to help you to do. Additional advice I would have is to use connections. One positive thing I was able to do for my former players was use my name game. So I called my college coach, who's a Division I coach, and I asked him who he knew they would need a player like the one I had, a 5'7" wing, where can I put her? And he said, when you call coaches, say that you were a former player of mine. And they understand the type of player that my coach would recruit, so they knew what type of player I was, what type of coach I would probably be, and what type of player I would have that I would be willing to, advertise or get recruited. And so you need to know people, and you need to understand that later on in life, your name is going to carry weight if you want it to. So use that connection, and then they might say, I don't want a player like that, but I got a buddy down the road. Then that buddy might say, hey, yeah, I know that coach, but I'm busy, so let me get you a couple other names. And I really did dot around the whole Western United States until I got a coach that I actually played against. And I said, hey, I've got a player. I used to play against you when you coach. Would you want her? And they sent her film, and honestly, they loved her from the second they saw her. And I would have never sent her there if I hadn't gone through all these different patterns. And you need to know connections are worth it. Don't just have your sights, don't have tunnel vision. Definitely be willing to bounce around and use people's names if they're willing to. It's like a letter of recommendation. You need to ask first, make sure they're comfortable with you using their name, and once they are, use it, because it definitely helps and will say a lot about the type of player that you are if it's worth them using their name. So that's my additional advice.
History.
My name's Angie Gonzalez. I started out in Kansas City at Bishop Miege High School and got recruited to Kansas University. Played at Oregon my freshman year, transferred to KU, played there for 3 years, and went on to play professional basketball overseas in Germany. Stefan is my son, Stefan Gonzalez, and he will be a rising senior. He started out playing basketball probably back in the 3rd, 4th grade for YMCA, went straight over to a club basketball team in Boise, the Idaho Select, has played high school basketball and year-round basketball since about 5th, 6th grade, and we're in our last AAU tournament right now. So he has a variety of schools that have offered and have shown good interest, and that is everything from a mid-major D1 through some of the low D1s. So I think that people anymore say that this doesn't really work very much, but when you're in a very remote area where it's not really known for basketball, we did reach out to a few coaches in our region, and some highlight film quick highlight film, a brief biography of Stefan, his GPA, any grades that he had gotten or any accomplishments he had gotten on and off the floor, in a brief one-page resume, along with some highlights and his best game film, and we sent that out to probably 15, 20 schools. I will tell you one thing that nobody talks about is if a kid is really interested in a particular school, they need to contact that school. Let them know where they're at, what high school, what state tournament they're playing at, when their games are, the times. It's so much easier for coaches, even if they're on an AAU team, there's so many teams, so many kids to be seen. And if you've already piqued their interest with possibly the resume and the video of their highlights and a game, they literally tend to come and watch because they're like, this kid was interested enough in to either phone me, call me, know that they're interested in my school, I've got to take a look at him. So, and at that juncture, a few of the higher D1s would come watch, and then they'd say, hey, you really got to watch this kid, he's a great fit for you. And so through word of mouth, the basketball community is very, very small. And once you kind of get on the map with some of the bigger guys or even the mid-majors or low majors, they can get you into a place where they feel like you fit, whether that's D2, NAIA, or D3. Yes. I do believe that with our daughters, I'm going to have to segue into our daughters that also are playing D1 basketball right now. I believe that we spread everything too thin, that there was a lot of interest, and then basically what happened was, I think people heard they're going to Stanford, and so some people kind of fell off, or they heard we were at a visit at UW or down at Tennessee, so some people kind of fell off. So I think what you need to do is kind of hone it down, hone your list down. By sophomore, going into your junior year, you should hone a list down around 8, and then by the time you're going into your junior summer of AAU ball, you should really, really be thinking about what are my top 5 schools that I'm going to take official visits to. As far as you can only do what you can do to get better. So as much time that you can spend, I always told my kids this, it's the time you spend when nobody's looking is going to get you a scholarship. And I think that everyone thinks it's just game time or show time or when they show up to a couple-hour practice. Kids that put in all of those extra hours, whether they're at the rec center and they're just playing pickup ball, or whether they get with an older kid that's better than they are and play one-on-one with them, I think we've really, really gotten away from skills work. And I would highly recommend going to any of the camps out there, and we've been to several, that emphasize skills work on and off the court. I love the Point Guard College. We sent all of our kids to the Point Guard College. Whether your kid's a point guard or not, it's think the game. So you go in, you do chalkboard and board work and film work, and then you take that, what you've just learned, right onto the court, and I felt like that was invaluable.
We start locally, obviously. Utah kids, Idaho kids, anything in the general area is where we start, and we want to try to get as many local kids as we can that fit our needs. So Utah is obviously where we start. We've had good success in Idaho, had some Idaho kids as well, and then we've had a lot of success in Northern California. Damian Lillard came from Northern California. We've had 2 other kids from that area that have been good players for us. Also, Arizona's been good for us to go down there. And then in the last 4 to 5 years, Texas has been really good for us. One of my assistant coaches has dug in pretty good down there. And we've had a lot of success in Texas recently. And I believe we've got 5 kids from the state of Texas on our roster right now. So those would be the main areas, and then we don't venture too far east by any means, and too far south. There's a lot of Division I schools in between us and them, so but those areas have been the best for us. if you're a good enough player to play Division I basketball, usually you're going to be found, and it really doesn't matter where you're at. We just took a kid recently from Idaho, Shelley, Idaho, small little town, and played AAU basketball, and we found him. So I think the main thing you can do is become a really good player, you know. And if you're a really good player that can play Division I, you usually get noticed. Now, how do you do that? If you're a good player, obviously AAU basketball is huge this day and age. And there's so many AAU teams out there, and a lot of kids, they get involved in AAU, go to these big tournaments, and tournaments during the month of July, that's our big recruiting month when we go out and evaluate kids. So there'll be tournaments in Las Vegas and Dallas. I'm going to Myrtle Beach, Atlanta, all over the country, Los Angeles. And that's the best place to probably get noticed, is get on an AAU team. And once you do travel around, these tournaments are going to be loaded. There's going to be 300 Division I basketball coaches at these tournaments. So if you can play it all and you're a good enough player and you get on one of these AAU teams, there's a pretty good chance you're going to get noticed. For us, I'll be honest with you, we get a lot of emails, we get videos. There's these national scouting service deals that they sign up kids, and they recruit kids to sign up for their service, and they tell them, hey, if you sign up with us, then we can get you a scholarship in maybe Division I. I'll be honest with you, we don't really follow that stuff much. We rely on our own sources and finding kids and seeing kids and that type of thing. I think it's a good idea for kids that maybe think they can play Division I, maybe put some DVDs together, throw them out to coaches. But to be honest with you, the kids that are doing that or have to do that, you wonder if they're good enough to play at this level, you know. And so that's tough. It's tough, you know. Some kids think that they can play Division I, and so they send out DVDs or they sign up with these scouting services. And if we receive those things, I'll be honest with you, we don't pay much attention to them. We get emails, we get things in the mail, letters, that type of thing, and we look at everything. We open them up. Now, if it says 7 foot on there, we might take a closer look. But usually, if kids and kids have to be proactive if they feel like they can play at this level. However, from our standpoint, we've got kids that we've seen throughout the previous 2 summers. We start recruiting kids when they're sophomores, even freshmen if we notice them, and we kind of go with our list more than anything. So people that contact us, it's a little bit harder for us to really believe that they might be able to play at this level. Whether that's right, wrong, or indifferent, that's just the way it is. Again, become really good and then get on probably an AAU program where you're able to go to tournaments and get seen. That's the best way to go. And I think a lot of kids this day and age, they worry so much about the recruiting, and I'm like, just go work on your game and become a good enough player. And if you can play, you're going to get found. Again, there's not a lot of secrets out there. And kids from, there's a few kids that slide through the cracks. But the biggest thing is, I think, in this day and age, because we're limited on how much we can go out and see kids, we get one weekend in the month of April that we can go out and try to see as many as we can. The NCAA limits that. And then in July, we've got 3 weekends basically that we go to these tournaments and we watch as many kids as we can watch. And in our area, for us at our level, we got to have a big list of kids. So the best thing you can do is get on an AAU team again and go to these tournaments. And if you can play, somebody's going to see you and somebody's going to find you. If you do slip through the cracks, then I do think that you got to get help from your high school coach, your AAU coach. And those coaches have to obviously contact and try to get your name out there somehow, some way. Through coaches, Division I coaches, is the best way to do it. And maybe send DVRs or DVD, whatever they are anymore, from the high school coaches. and get some help from coaches or even AAU coaches.